Continuing on with chapter 4, this is page 86. Pages 86 and 87 have a story about the zebra mussels that you do not need to know. So we're going to go ahead and go to the next page. Well, let me clarify. You do need to know about zebra mussels, but you don't need to know that specific research. But again, zebra mussels are really important, just not that research. Okay, on page 88, continuing along with our talk about succession, you need to know about pond succession, and it's this paragraph right here. And so pond succession is a little bit different than on land. Ponds tend to fill up over time and become solid ground. All right, on this page, know the definition of climax community, the definition of regeneration, which is the return to a healthy ecosystem. Climax community is the end of succession, and it's going to look different in each biome. So in a desert, your climax community might have large saguaro cactus. In the Sonoran Desert, or in our desert, the Mojave, it might have Joshua trees at the end of succession. And again, it's going to look different in different biomes. Sometimes a community cannot reach climax community because it's been so badly degraded. And this could be from the lack of a keystone species that was killed off, or some climate change that has happened. And so whatever grows back might not look like the original. And so we say it undergoes a phase or regime shift. And the new type of ecosystem that it becomes, we call it a novel community. All right, going on to the next page, we can talk about invasive species, and here we revisit zebra mussels. And so know this figure and caption, which is really some of the problems with zebra mussels in the Great Lakes, and also how they've spread to other locations. So some of the human impacts, or impacts for humans, are that it clogs intake pipes. Some of the problems which cost a lot of money, by the way. Some of the problems for aquatic life from the zebra mussels is that it kills the native mussels and clams because it eats their food supply. It filters so much phyto and zooplankton that the fish that rely on the plankton die off. But also the water becomes clearer, which grows aquatic plants, so the aquatic plants actually like it. So we have a variety of ecological impacts from zebra and quagga mussels. And you can see here on this picture, it's the spread. So it started here in the Great Lakes because that's where the zebra mussels arrived. They came across the Atlantic. Actually, through Lake Erie, there's an outlet to the, there's a river that comes along here down into the Great Lakes. And that's how the ship from Asia came down here into the Great Lakes. And that's where the zebra mussels started. You can see over here we have quaggas. Oh, quagga mussels started over here too. Our closest lake with quaggas is Lake Piru. So invasive species is a topic that is very serious in ecosystems. Sometimes they're called alien or exotic or introduced. It means the same thing. They're particularly bad because they have no natural predators or natural diseases in the new environment. They outcompete the native species for resources, and this whole process of invasive species all over the world has been sped up through global trade. Okay, let's turn the page. And we're going to turn 2 pages. This particular story about Mount St. Helens shows succession in Mount St. Helens from its eruption in 1980. Turning the page again to page 92. Know the definition on page 92 of degradation. This is considered an academic vocabulary word, and basically how we use it in apes is a decline or deterioration in the quality of an environment. And this could be because of a depletion of resources, your water is polluted, your soil is depleted, it's blown away, or your air is polluted. It could be an extinction of species. So a lot of times scientists try to restore environments, and you can see down here on the Great Plains, they're trying to restore some of the temperate grassland here as an ecological restoration project. We have these around Southern California as well. They do a lot of them over by the coast where they pull out invasive ice plant that was planted over 100 years ago to control erosion, but it's actually driven out all the native species that actually did fine with controlling erosion. So they're pulling that out and replanting. Sometimes you can see that along the coast. All right, so now we're going to go along to biomes, and here's our map of where different biomes are. You can see for us, we are orange, which on the key is the chaparral. It's a smaller biome. It's only here in Southern California, around the Mediterranean, Australia, and over here in Chile. So it's in terms of land size, it's a smaller biome, but it's actually one of the most biodiverse. Now, most of what you will learn for biomes will be in chart form. So there's a couple little reminders here. Make sure you know what a climatogram is. And also, when it's time to study biomes, get out the chart that you made and study the chart. It's going to be a lot easier to study the chart than it is the book. But do refer to the book for a couple of things. First, know this figure and caption, which basically show you how precipitation and temperature influence what biome you are. And the more rain, so wetness, and heat produces the most biodiversity. So the most biodiverse ecosystem on land that we have is the tropical rainforest because it's the hottest and it's the wettest. All right, so these are climatograms that show temperature and show rainfall. And this is really how we determine what kind of biome it is. Again, temperature and rainfall. This is the temperate deciduous forest. The word deciduous means the leaves fall off the trees. Okay, turning the page. We have the temperate rainforest. Alaska has the largest rainforest in the world and the largest old-growth forest. We'll study old growth, what that means, in Chapter 12, but to preview that, it really means it's never been logged. And the tropical rainforest, you can see it's steady heat and steady rain all year long. And then we have the tropical dry forest. It has a dry season and a rainy season, and it's just hot all year long. The savannas also have a dry and a rainy season as well. Going on to deserts. Deserts is pretty hot, but it can get cooler in the winter, and then it's low rain all year long in blue here. And then we have here the tundra. The tundra has very little rain, so we start out at 0 and we just go up to about 35 millimeters of rain. It's very, very dry. Sometimes people call it as dry as a desert. So the two driest biomes in the world are tundra and desert. And it doesn't get very warm either. This is negative 20 degrees Celsius. It just goes up above freezing and then back down. So very cold, not a lot of rain in the tundra. And you can see here the plants that it supports are just shrubby bushes. And so no tall trees because of the lack of rain. This is the boreal forest. So this is like in Canada and Russia. It's cold. You do have some rain as well, more than a lot of biomes. This is ours. This is the chaparral. We actually have a dry season in the summer, which is unusual. A lot of ecosystems there get the most rain during the summer. For us, we get almost no rain during the summer, and then we're pretty warm year-round. We don't get very cold here in the chaparral. All right, the last thing for this chapter to know is this figure and caption. This is something that kids get wrong on tests a lot, and I don't know if it's because they just don't study the figure and caption, but basically it says that as altitude increases, communities change in ways that change with latitude as one moves towards the pole. So basically you can kind of mimic going from the equator to the poles when you go up a mountain. And so at the very top, you're above the tree line, and so that would be like the tundra, the boreal forest, the temperate deciduous forest, your savannas and shrublands. And then down here you have a desert, but that's a little bit different than, that's an exception to the rule here, because really around the equator where it's hottest, you're going to find tropical rainforests. Here we have a desert, and then you go up in altitude. We see this actually in California. In Palm Springs, you can see this. There's a Palm Springs aerial tram that takes you from the Sonoran Desert all the way up to the top, and you have a spruce fir forest. And you can take a tram all the way up to the top. It's a pretty amazing ride if you ever have the opportunity to do it someday. All right, that's the end of chapter 4.